How are you?
Pretty amazing, so.
How's work?
Insane.
Okay, for the last time, I'm sure.
Alrighty.
Right, hold on a second, let me get it up here. Try this out.
I've been better. I've been really nauseous today. One week like rare for me, so I don't know it. But I've been nauseous tomorrow when I had nothing going on.
I just had, I'm certain. About all the nauseous.
That's good.
Nice.
How you ever did friendship?
Yeah, so some there.
Okay, thank you for joining us for the meeting of the Belterra Board of Directors. I am Catherine Williams, President of the Board, and I will serve as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode at this time, and we will call the meeting to order. So the Belterra Board members present today include Vice President and Treasurer Rob Letty, Secretary Patricia Ledan, and Directors Peter Ogden and Fred Sanchez. Noting the presence of a quorum, may I have a motion to call this meeting to order at 4:34 p.m.
So,
Motion, may I have a second? Trish seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It sounds like. May I have a motion to adjourn and reconvene in executive session at 4:34 p.m. in Dallas?
so.
Thank you, Bob. Seconded by Trish. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, sounds like it carries unanimously. Okay. I know. I love hearing Chinese left here tonight. It's so fun. So we are in the regular session from executive session. And so the only action we really took in executive session is sending the collections review over to legal counsel. And then we also talked about just making sure that our HVAC is protected. We're gonna rekey the office door, so that way if you rent this room, then you'll have a key fob and then a key into the, sorry, I should call it the office anymore, it's storage. Into the storage closet. And that's where we'll have the ping pong table, the chairs, these folding tables, so that way people who rent this room are able to access those things when they rent. And then we might look at pricing out now for a ping pong table for the pavilion. And make sure that the clubs are all just following their hours that are stated in their charters. So do we need to approve any of that? Yeah, oh, and Sarah also gave us a review over the biannual CCMC client survey. So there we go. And then we are on to the approval of prior meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of the board held on February 29th, 2024 as presented? So Brad. Oh, okay. A second. May I have a second? Second. Trish. Any discussion? I'll just say I wasn't here for that meeting, so I'm gonna abstain. Okay, just so you know. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and we have that passes with 4, and then I abstained. And then we're on to Marcia with the monthly management report.
Yay! All right, so it has been a busy couple of months. Does anybody know what's been going on, anything? No.
Did you notice the color of the building?
Did anyone notice it? Love it? Everyone loves it, right? That's right, all right. So we did have some small delays due to weather. How we're really holding in there is that then the rain came, you need the rain, but it didn't delay us too much. But projects are going really well. The painting and staining project is complete with the new colors. That is terrible quality. There we go, it got better, there we go. It's complete with the new colors, gave everything a much needed refresh, while definitely staying true to Belterra. The pool and splash pad, as we know, officially opened yesterday. There we go. So that's a little bit of picture, you can kind of see it out there too. The mushroom is a lovely seafoam green color. We are still waiting on the tumble buckets, those were a very long lead time. Unfortunately, we won't have to close the pool in order to get those installed. So more stuff coming there. And the splash pad, I'm pretty jazzed about the splash pad. Rocks are gone. The floor material, the white floor looks great. It's kind of it's a little spongy of a material, so if it's dripping fall, you know, it's rated, they said something like 8 feet, like it won't crack an egg. So really, really great progress there. So that is all done, so we want to be safe for the littlest Belterrans in the community. But as I mentioned, improvements are not done. Oh, and then the multi-use court, sorry, the basketball court now, this was in progress, but you've probably seen that it's roped off out there, signed up there saying, please stay off. Noon tomorrow, those signs will come down, the striping just needed some time to dry, but now it's officially a multi-use court with volleyball nets and a pickleball net. We are still waiting on permitting to do the extension, which is why the lights aren't going to work just yet. You'll see lights for the basketball court, but there's no power to them yet. We don't want to have the electrician come out, run power, and then have to come back out and run power to the extension portion. So I'll keep the community updated on those permits and when that portion of the project will be in. And then the board will be reviewing it as part of tonight's agenda, new and updated signage for the community. We wanted, or for the amenity areas, we wanted ideally that to be done before the pool reopened, but the timing just didn't work out. So we put the old signs back up, but there will be some new refreshed signs hopefully soon. All right, that's all I've got.
And then I'll just interject real quick. I forgot to mention Howard Ballard. And one of our directors is on Zoom, thankfully. So we're really grateful that he's here. He came in during executive session. So I just wanted to say hi to Howard. Thank you for being here. His daughter, some big things going on. So I'm grateful he can come in via technology. So on to Bob for financial review.
All right, as of March 31st, 2024, unaudited financial statements, the total assets were Belterra Community Association has $467,228.93 in our operating fund, $650,622.35 in reserve, $259,422.76 in capital improvement. The code has $20,120.53 in operating and $148,842.70 in reserve. That's that.
The next one.
So, the Belterra Community Association CPA, Armstrong, and Ball and Associations concluded their audited 2023 financial statements. Excuse me. Would anyone on the board like to make a motion regarding the 2023 audit?
I have a motion to approve that.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right, wonderful. Now we're on to old business. So since the last board meeting, the board took the following actions. To operate the pool as fully swim at your own risk rather than partial swim at your own risk, partial lifeguard staff, and moving the save funds to the capital improvement at the end of the year. We moved to extend the pool hours to 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days per week. We awarded the splash pad resurfacing contract, which y'all just saw pictures of, to Progressive Commercial Aquatics, utilizing the life floor system at a cost of $75,233.75, payable from reserves. We proceeded with the Mojave Sandbar Sandstone color theme for the life floor system at the splash pad. We proceeded with the color choice buff for the tuck coat pool deck coating. We replaced the existing play pool water feature. We approved to replace the existing play pool water feature with the 5 tumble bucket feature in red, orange, yellow, blue, and green. And we've already repainted the mushroom with seafoam. bucket feature was on back order, so we'll be installing that when it gets in. But thankfully, that doesn't really require shutting down the pool area, so that won't be too much of an interference when it does come in. And then finally, we followed the recommendation of the code committee and authorized 8 doctors to replace their gate access system with a Cellgate WXL system at a cost of $8,904.48, payable from the code reserves. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the aforementioned actions taken by the board after the prior meeting, but before this meeting?
A motion to approve the ratification of all the items listed.
Thank you, Bob. May I have a second? Fred, thank you. Any discussion? Wonderful. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, sounds like there's unanimously. You don't know if Howard staying there.
Yes,
Thank you.
you've got numbers.
All right, we're on to our second item. Janet King was previously awarded the janitorial contract. However, due to an error in the original bid, they are resubmitting their proposal with the corrected numbers. The revised annualized amount is $2,196 more than the board previously approved, coming in at $25,980 annually before tax. And so now we're requesting that we increase that we essentially say, yeah, to pay the extra $2,000 because we've already signed the contract and stuff. So would anybody like to make a motion regarding the janitorial contract revision request from Janet King?
I'll move that we approve the revised contract for Janet King to reflect the $2,196,000 additional funding.
All right, may I have a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we move on. So we next have the strategic planning committee. So that's the correct one, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool, we are moving through. All right, so the strategic planning committee evaluated the survey and has a presentation for us tonight. We are going to start with just a quick intro. So I'm the chair for the strategic planning committee, and I just wanted to give a brief overview for it. So we had over 500 residents take the survey. Not all the questions were required, well, none of them were required. And so it's kind of cool to see we have some questions that garnered over 300 responses, some had 50, and so that's gonna just kind of, and we'll walk through that as we go through the results. The multiple choice questions, rating the different areas, were the ones that received the most input. So, you know, how is management's or rate management's communication? 1 to 5. And so those typically received like a 300 people response. The ones that didn't receive as high response were the open-ended questions. Those received more like 50 to 90. And so it was interesting to see the rating was pretty positive, but then the open-ended comment, those questions were, how can we improve? And so you'll notice in the graphs, these are positive, these have like more negative responses, but that's why. And that's kind of the number difference that you're gonna see in that presentation. And then we'll also take questions from the board at the end. So I will start us off with resident information. So from 271 residents who responded to this question, our pool, okay, we're gonna start here, sorry. Let me see. So based on 356 residents who responded, 32% of homes have 4 residents, 30% of homes have 2 residents, 14% have 3, and then 11% of homes have 5 residents or more. So over 60% of the households in Belterra have 3 or more residents in their home, kind of reflecting what we'll probably guess is that this is more of a family neighborhood. Then the top 5 used amenities, the top one was the pool, and then the rec center playground, the workout room or gym, splash pad, and then the basketball court. Those were the top five, and then there's some others. And then the top activities that residents enjoyed were walking and hiking was one. Food-related activities. So that could be from like having a food truck, eating like food. Reading, swimming, and then anything that was socializing. Those were the top five. And then, let's see. Yeah, so the recommendations with this would be to share this section of the survey with the lifestyle director, just to help shape future activities. And, those are the top activities, and we can utilize these hobbies and interests that can be turned into activities for next year's survey rather than doing open-ended questions, just to kind of save the strategic planning committee some time. All right, and then we are on to, I believe, management with Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie Kemp, and I had management, and, this was kind of what we were talking about, that the question's a little bit bigger, and so, 17.5% are satisfied with current, management, and then this is where we get into the weeds, then they start talking, because it was just comments and they're saying, we wish that they would enforce HOA community standards, we wish they would keep the pool clean, we wish they would improve communication, and then improve lifestyle events. So those were kind of the top pieces of information we gathered from that. And then when we had a basic question, are you satisfied? Management scored a 4.08, and that is out of 5. And then this graph is just showing you, where was the negative or were they neutral? And if you look at satisfied with current management, most were green, and then we just had a few neutral, like I had never interacted with the management, I never came up to the office. And then the enforcement of HOA standards, I read a lot of comments about like parking on the street or mowing the yard or things like that, that they wish that those community standards were enforced. And then pool maintenance, just a lot of comments that we all know about keeping the bathroom clean, keeping the pool clean, and then improved communications. I've read quite a few things that were like, we're moving in the right direction, we're hearing from our management company a lot more. And then improved lifestyle events. That was just some kind of suggestions about different ways, and we will pass that on to Byron just for his information, so. So there is a general satisfaction with management, just improve open lines of communication, share the feedback specific to water districts and businesses in the WCID. So there was a lot of like questions that really should be referred to WCID, our water district, or the police, or they wanted us to like slow people down in the roads, but just all kinds of stuff. And then they loved how Belterra is beautiful. And then there was some erosion of trust about the pickleball court not yet being done. And that's it for that part.
Thank you, Natalie. We're on to Rita with communication.
Hello. So this is really just community perception related to management and how we can do a better job of communicating with them. So this one overall, we just saw that the community is really appreciative of the current process. They like the emails, and I think we'll see that common theme going throughout. Other recommendations or inclusion options were social media. They definitely love Facebook. There were also talks, I saw multiple comments about adding a possible text or SMS option, especially when there is something significant, the pool is closed or something's going on, just shooting people a quick text message, I think was recommended quite a few times. There were others, they definitely talked about the paper, I forgot about that one, the paper boards or using paper up in the mailbox areas, they would like some of that too. Things they asked to see more of in the communications, they definitely want to be updated on their amenities. We talked about that one. But the one that I saw most often was definitely they want to know about what's happening outside of Belterra or other entities that affect Belterra. So they definitely want to know about road work happening around our area, there was school closures, anything and everything you could imagine. How can I volunteer outside of the neighborhood? They definitely want to know what's going on in the larger community. other things they want to know about events, and then of course the CCNRs. They definitely want to make sure that those rules are being followed. And like I said before, the biggest things, the biggest sources of information for our residents are the emails. So the two largest numbers that we see are the Belterra Blast email and the Lifestyle Lowdown email. And then after that, it's social media. So Facebook being the most common social media platform that our residents are using. And this one was just how residents see the management team communicating, and the score was overall favorable from those that responded to this question. And this one was a high response one. So our recommendations from this section, we definitely feel like management's meeting the current expectations for communication. They would definitely like to see more information from outside the community, updates on amenities and events, and CCNR. Email was by far the best communication platform, but the other suggestions, like I mentioned, were the text messaging, social media, a potential website, and paper options. They wanted an opt-in option for the various levels of communication. So they kind of mentioned, hey, if I could opt into getting more information about events and not really the boring stuff, or vice versa. They kind of wanted the option to do those things, not the boring stuff, but the rules and the thing. People definitely were like, I get too many emails. I want this one. I don't want this one. There were things like that. Lots of positive comments on the improvement in the communication from management. There were many thumbs up, yes, keep going, this is great. So lots of improvements. And then the recommendation was just to share the suggestions for improving the social media presence in the Belterra Blast emails.
Wonderful, thank you, Rita.
Can I have a little plug?
Yes, sure. Go for your shameless plug.
Absolutely. I'm only look at, but we already have an SMS text option ready to get more about it.
Cool.
Please go, we're behind the scenes.
All right, and next we are on to lifestyle feedback with Jim.
So I'm subbing for Steve here, who's in Costa Rica.
Oh, nice.
Keep it going, so
He's a poor guy.
is he zooming from?
No.
So I'll do my best here. So this is the lifestyle section of the survey. So with over about 20% responding, more adults and family activities were the most requested, as you can see by that pie chart. And these generally reflect the demographics of Belterra that Kat presented. So pretty much through all the survey, we notice a correlation across demographics, activities, and the subsequent activities. So that all makes sense. It's good to see. Your favorite experience as a resident of Belterra, with over 30% responding, Belterra activities lead as the favorite category. Thank you, Byron. Followed by community offerings, as we just reported, that's generally the case. Whether it's volunteer activities, Father's Day is this weekend, it's whatever's going on. We're nicely located for a variety of events, so that's a great opportunity. And again, walking the WCID maintained trails was third, so you can see the rest there. So our recommendations that came out were specific. More activities focused on adults and teens, and I don't have a lot of detail there, but we'll pass this along to Byron. And it may be more than just wine on Wednesdays, but clearly that was an issue. And teens, it may be that we need some kind of a teen survey. And so what would teens like to do? Because teens have, my granddaughters have activities within their schools, within the communities, but it's always a challenge. What do you offer teens to do, and clearly there are amenities here for them, but what activities or other things could we do? And one question I had to consider on that subject is, do we invite teens, their friends who are not a part of Belterra? Would they participate in these activities, or is it just Belterra own? So, block parties by neighborhood sections. The code kind of does this already. I'm a committee chairman, and we have 2 big events per year. there's a July 4th, there's a Christmas event. So we get everybody together. It's a way of, just meeting people and I use it as a method to recruit people to the committee as well. So, service activity and opportunities, that came up as you saw, before. So that's an issue that we'd like to recommend. And then finally, as I said, sharing this information with Byron.
And one thing I want to point out with the team, when I went through and I read these comments, just because I was interested, and there were quite a few comments that were like, we were here when our kids were younger, and it was so fun to go to the activities, and we felt like we had a community, and as our kids aged, we felt like we lost that community, that there wasn't something for us to take our kids to anymore, and it was kind of sad to read some of those and be like, oh wow, like, and so it's maybe not even just doing teen activities, but maybe like mother-daughter teen activities that like they can like see other parents at, and the teenagers can enjoy like a paint night or I don't know, something, but I just, the reading a few of those just talked about experience.
It's hard as they get to be teenagers, they're all doing their own thing, they don't wanna hang out with mom and dad. Anything that you try to do that is so uncool, no, it's organized teens, that's
a good point, now, this is eight, I don't know who you're doing.
Yeah.
Every time of them, I don't know, it's so it's on the adult.
Opportunity, but I do think the teen survey would be really helpful, for sure.
You know, the teens filled out, not their parents.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the question involving their friends who don't live in Belterra,
Byron's gonna be on TikTok pretty soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I'm.
Well, you have about 12 months to do that. So then, on the maintenance, section, which I reviewed extensively. So let me make a general comment first. When you ask people about maintenance, what do you think the answer is going to be? We need more maintenance. But so given that, let me then couch these responses. So over 33% responding more than the lifestyle. Maintenance improvements for the pool, splash pad, and bathrooms were cited in over half the responses, followed by the baseball field. So, as you would expect, and I appreciate the board is taking action on some of these things as the previous survey comments made, and especially the baseball field, as you've done. And again, these improvements generally track with amenity usage. So, the pool, this area is the big drawing card right now. And so it gets the greatest usage and therefore requires greatest maintenance. So on average, residents are satisfied, slightly less than agree, which was our 4.0 rating, with the overall maintenance and aesthetics of Belterra. So you can see that when you drive in the front, it's really very pretty. The commons areas and facilities agree with the survey question as the highest areas. It's about 4, with the baseball field the lowest, so that's 3.5 on there. So in terms of common frequency, and I guess I couched my earlier introduction to this topic with the fact that ask people what they think, and 86+% said, all areas need improvement, and there were a lot of it. I encourage the board to read the verbatims, which really get into the detail of what they meant by that, anything from, the place is dated, it needs improvements, et cetera, et cetera. So, you read those, too. And therefore the areas of maintenance strength are very low. That's, 2%. So that is the issue there. So our recommendations and summaries are to improve the overall maintenance. That's pretty specific. And I guess the big issue there is, there needs to be a comprehensive plan for daily usage and cleanliness, and then execute to the plan. So I think that's the takeaway.
Thank you so much, Jim. And one of the nice things is, since the survey's been done, we've actually increased janitorial, like the pool, company comes out more often, so hopefully these will improve.
Yeah, that's a caveat. The survey was done in September of last year, so it does take time for her to, you know, digest all the information, so, yeah, it's done some things, that's for sure.
Alrighty, and then I'm on for third-party vendors, so this section of the survey covered residents' interactions with our third-party vendors, so that's from our ongoing vendors like landscaping to the vendors at our events. So the majority of residents said they didn't really have interactions with our vendors. The majority of those who did have interactions though were positive. And really, these kind of feel like low-hanging fruit. So the recommendations from this section is remind land care to stop blowing or to not blow in the directions of residents who are passing by while they're working. And we can potentially put that on WCID as well, because they could have been walking on a trail and, you know, they don't really, residents don't remember exactly who's in charge of what area. And then if we could just pass the vendor event section on to Byron for him to review and just kind of receive this feedback. Another one was the groups that, and this is kind of a question for management as well, is the groups DSYSA that come out and play, they're saying like there's overcrowding or that there's not like clear defined lines, and so they're kind of like pushing each other around out there. And so is that our space? Do they rent from us, or do they just kind of show up and do their thing?
The Byron question.
They do rent.
They do?
Yeah, but the issue is, and they don't really disclose it, they have multiple teams that come out and practice, in different areas, so most of the time, all of them out there are DSYSA. So that is something that we can definitely look into, kind of marking off areas, maybe like field one, getting signage or something like that to kind of designate specific areas to kind of make it a little more organized in that, yeah.
Really getting our arms around, I mean, how many teams are you gonna have?
Right, yeah,
Teams at a time.
yeah.
Work that into the agreement,
Mhm.
because if the overcrowd, if those comments are truly coming from parents who are participating, they may not realize that maybe it is by the same thing as opposed to a Belterra thing, you know, they're overcrowding the availability.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's,
For
okay,
sure.
so our recommendation is to pass that on to management. And then, yeah, those are all the recommendations from that section. Just go ahead and read through those comments and see if there's anything else y'all would like to address. Next, we've got Natalie with the Minity updates.
Okay, people wanted pickleball court or tennis court, those were kind of like usually used, together. And then they wanted additional pool, or they just wanted to keep our pool but improve it. Or get a new gym, or blow out the walls. There's all kinds of stuff. Dog park, improve the activity room, improve the baseball field, and then going with what you were saying. And then improve, children play spaces, like add playgrounds or put more shade, and then usually they wanted 2 sand volleyball courts, not just 1, so. Those were kind of,
the package deal.
yeah, so they wanted two sand volleyball courts. And then, do you wanna pay for any of this? No. Nope. $0 to $50. We did receive a little bit of complaint because some people wanted it to be a $0 option and then do like 1 to 50. So
Change that for next survey.
no, so we've taken note of that. So do you want to pay something right now to get a new thing? No, we don't. And would you want to pay for it ongoing? 65%, $1 to $20. So most of that was not really, they don't want to pay for anything. Okay, let me see what's the next. So the recommendation is to get the pickleball courts, you know, if we had money to do these things, get the pickleball courts installed, which the board has made progress on that with repainting lines, expand the gym, update weights and equipment. I heard a lot of comments about our gym is too small, the weights are outdated, it doesn't really fit for 2,000 people. No increase in fee. Just maintain what we have. A lot of people, like, we've been saying with the committee that, you know, we use the pool a lot, we use the gym a lot, let's just keep it nice and neat and keep all the areas that we go to. People want a dog park, expand the activity room, baseball field, improve the splash pad, which that has already been done. Update kids path, spaces, and then pass along any requests for water district improvements to WCID. With every one that I reviewed, it was just this long list of things that really need to go to WCID. So, that are not in y'all's purview. And then, I would recommend that y'all go and look at other neighborhood amenity centers just to see how we compare. And then it may look amazing and then see how much their assessment, is in
We definitely have
comparison.
the lowest assessment in the area.
So just to take that into consideration.
Thank you so much, Natalie. All right, and then I'm on to volunteerism. So this section focused on residents volunteering to help out, and we have quite a bit of interest. So, let's see, I'll get to that in a minute. So there were, for clubs, 80 residents expressed interest in joining or starting a club. We'd love to pass that information on to Byron. And then for the different projects, and we have like a little list with check marks of different projects that residents might be interested in focusing on. And from that, there was quite a few people who, so I'd say like as a board, we just need to look through that and see if you want to move forward with any of them. The one that I recommend for sure going forward with is we have multiple people who are master gardeners in the neighborhood who said they're really interested in updating our plant list. And I would understand the xeriscaping committee is working on that. And so I'd love to get some master gardeners in there to kind of help with that plant list. We had some residents express interest in having their business be sponsors for Belterra events. So we could pass that on to Byron. And then, let's see. We had 47 residents express interest in joining one or more of our committees, which is super exciting. So I think just a recommendation for the board is to figure out how we want to determine who would fill spots on committees, how long the people would serve for, how they choose their chair, just kind of build out a plan around our committees, because that would just be super helpful moving forward. And one of the ideas was also having maybe 2 or 3 people that, you have a full committee, and then you have 2 or 3 people that's like, if someone drops off, these people can fill in alternates. Thank you, it's a good word. And then we asked the question, what would you want to do if you were a board member? And from those responses, they would say focus on amenities was number 1, which, we attach nothing. Rule enforcement, safety, budget, and then lifestyle were tied for 5th or 4th. And then there were multiple items that were referenced to WCID. They're just their items, so we could consider passing those on to WCID so they're aware of them. And then if you're interested in some evening reading, read through the comments because people had some good things to say. All right, and then we're on to Rita for survey feedback.
I think this is another good comment read if y'all want to go check these out. This was kind of the section where I didn't see where I wanted to put my comment, so I'm gonna let it all out. So when you see, other, that's a lot of like, anything and everything they wanted to talk about. And again, this is a low response, so don't be fooled by the numbers. So this was just general survey feedback that we're gonna use to modify the survey for coming years. Basically, no change to the survey or shorten the survey was kind of what they discussed about the length, definitely not make it any longer. What did they see that they didn't, what did they want to see that wasn't on there? They saw amenities, but they still wanted to talk about more amenity stuff. The HOA guidelines was also a common theme. A lot of people said it was great and they were fine with it. Although we see that they didn't answer all the questions. Not everyone answered the questions all the way through. For next year's survey, we didn't get a clear answer on have multiple shorter surveys that focus on individual areas or have the one, but everybody was kind of like either one is fine. And I think for next year, we've kind of decided we'll do the annual one again, hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, I think definitely sharing the survey results summary with the community so that they know that, we value their feedback and action has already been taken. So it was overall a good experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rita. All right, and so that is the SPC presentation. Does the board have any questions? All right, awesome. Thank you all so much for your time on evaluating and presenting. Y'all did amazing. We are now on to the new business, item number 1, which is strategic planning committee project proposals. So the first is a vendor survey. So we would like to put together a vendor survey. The plan is for it to be very short, 4 or 5 question survey to find out how management treated the vendor, what our areas of strength are, what our areas of improvement are. And it would be annual for ongoing vendors, kind of like land care, the pool maintenance. They would get it once a year, but then the lifestyle of vendors would get it when Byron sends out like a follow-up email after the events. And so then that would be ongoing. So the SPC would review those responses monthly from those lifestyle vendors. And we would alert the board if there were any issues that needed to be addressed immediately. Otherwise, we will just do a once annual summarized presentation for the board, kind of like we did tonight, but for the vendor survey. So that's the vendor survey. And I think we do, for project proposals, we do need a motion and approval from the board. So would anybody like to make a motion? Or does anybody have any questions regarding the survey?
I understand the intent of this,
Yeah.
but at the moment, the committee that's dedicated to service provider relationships. And so it's see running a multi-year continuous engagement with vendors and that. Other committee exists with that being their charter purpose to drive those relationships and improvements. So
That's a good point.
not saying we don't execute this directly as intended and have people from the SPC contribute to doing it.
Yeah.
But while we have those distinct things, distinct charter that are proposed at the moment, we table this, figure out what lane we want it to run through, and what that looks like, and revisit it. And we've got a plan there for how to execute it successfully.
And I'm curious, does Speedback have something, because do y'all deal with lifestyle vendors or do y'all deal with?
That's way down in years, but in the broad category of service providers, it aligns with many of the other organizations we use and exchange in both directions. You can contract with us, residents using facilities, or people we contract to provide a service. And some of these things, right, are baked into the evaluation forms that ORSA exchanges with vendors on their quarterly basis, annual basis. Some of them would be new contacts to roll in part of the survey.
And so the one that y'all currently do is management rating them. Do they rate?
They have opportunities to respond on the form and provide feedback and commentary. So again, not asking them independently to provide that feedback as part of the survey. Absolutely. Not arguing with that approach at all. How we do it is just how do we keep the people who are engaged in this as their thing, engaged in it, and not have multiple groups interacting with vendors and coming back, which is like conflicting feedback or different takeaway.
So would a joint meeting between SPC and Speedback be the next step forward to see how we want to go through that? All right, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you so much for that feedback. All right, and then the next project proposal from Strategic Planning Committee is an annual stakeholder focused group. And so essentially each year we'd like to hear from a different group that's a stakeholder in Belterra. So that's like realtors or those who own businesses in Belterra Village, just to help the committee improve our strategic planning. So this year we would like to focus on a panel of realtors, maybe like 3 to 5, to discuss what they're seeing in the market in regards to master plan communities, what amenities they're seeing, what amenities they're hearing buyers saying, this is what we want. And the plan for this is we're working towards creating a master plan for what amenities we're gonna build. And so we just want to make sure we're moving in the right direction with what builders are seeing. Any questions on that? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move forward the annual stakeholder focus group.
Some thinking. Any questions? Or sorry, a second, may I have a second? Thank you, Bob. All right, and then, are there any discussions? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all so very much. We are on to item number 2, which is 2024 annual election balloting. It's time to start preparing for the 2024 annual meeting. The board's packet includes the proposal from the Inspector of Elections to provide online voting and election certification services, which comes to the amount of $9,530. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the 2024 annual election balloting?
I'll motion that we engage with, time and development, that's what we're on 2012 or 2024.
All right, thank you, Bob. May I have a second? Pete, any discussion? I have a question. Have we gone to anyone, or like, how often do we go to someone else just to price compare?
I mean, we can go annually if you want to. It's, I don't know how many years in a row Ty has been doing it. Do you know, Sarah?
At least like 4.
At least 4. Yeah. So next year we could, I may know the.
Yeah, I did have a community do, get 3 bids recently, and they were all just within $100 of each other, so. But yeah,
Can I make an amendment to that motion that we go forward with them this year and next year find at least 3 different bids?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, all right, it sounds like that was unanimous. On to legal counsel. Over the past few months, the board of directors has reviewed information and interviewed legal firms to ensure the association receives the best value legal guidance and collection practices. Belterra Community Association currently utilizes RMWDH. Would anyone like to make a motion to change who the association engages for general counsel and collection matters moving forward? If we choose to stay with RMWDH, no motion is necessary. Can we discuss before motions are made? Okay. So I figure maybe we discuss a little bit before we like hop right into making a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion, but, I don't have a discussion.
Okay, if you were making a motion, you can.
No, I mean, we can discuss first. Usually a motion.
The only
The process is first and second, then discussion, so she has to.
Yeah.
I moved to go with Alex Valdez instead.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
He was the third person you spoke to that night.
I don't remember the line, it sounds about right.
He was third, correct?
All right, so I've read a ton. Probably more legal counsel jargon than I am interested in, but essentially what I found is Winstead is the most affordable. It seems like KOQ and RMWDH come out to about the same. KO might be just a touch more, and then 995 was by far the most expensive, but I think it's because she's a smaller firm. And so her hands are in it a lot more, so you're paying for the attorney fees, whereas a bigger firm, you'd be paying for like an associate or paralegals. So. Yeah, I was leaning I really liked Nyman and Hire and Winstead's, their legislative things, because what they send to the board in their packets is they say, this is a summary of the law change, and then this is what we recommend you do as a board, which kind of made it really easy as a board member to be like, oh, these are the recommendations. I personally just struggle with how we left Winstead. They were a previous law firm, and I talked to a board member who was here when they left, and I was gonna ask them what went down. And essentially, Winstead, the developer asked Winstead to create the debt to, build the Cove Road. And, have the HOA board approve it. And so he said at the meeting, they were presented with this thing to approve that nobody had talked to him about, and it would have put the association over $100,000 in debt. And that's when he was like, wait, you're not representing us well, because you didn't inform us of this. And he said no, and, so after the whole board ended up saying no to it, and they got different lawyers, and they didn't feel like that law firm was being fully honest with them. And so just kind of knowing that makes me a little uneasy, but I also know that we aren't working with the developer anymore. The only,
That's the issue,
Yeah.
because that's classic development. And that's classic. Winstead was retained by the developer. And so until that turnover exists, there's going to be kind of this built-in inherent conflict. When the attorney is retained by the developer is the association until they sell so many homes, until turnover exists, and they represent the association, but, you know, it's that timing issue. So I can see why that would ruffle some feathers and why people might not understand that, but in my experience, Winston has a very good reputation and they're a good law firm and they know what they're doing and it's a good rate, so, and they're familiar with our community.
and I will say, WCID, their board didn't catch it, and WCID 1 and 2 both accepted debt from, and Winstead was the one who did that, which I don't love, but, my other thing is the strategic planning committee, so in the past, the tennis courts, they were willing, WCID 1, I believe, was willing to give us an easement for the two tennis courts. We didn't end up doing it because of the price increase and all of that. They currently have one instead. Would there be a conflict of interest moving forward if we had Winstead as a law firm, they had Winstead as a law firm, and we were trying to negotiate land easement deals like that?
Yeah, that gets a little bit more cumbersome. Unless sometimes they do this. There's different attorneys assigned to different clients. And so they can still have sort of this internal law within the firm.
Patricia, can I ask you a question, a legal question? If the WCID has legal counsel and Winstead is the paralegal services, not the legal counsel, does that make a, is that distinction important in your mind?
No,
Okay,
no, because there's not really any such thing as paralegal services. I mean, if you retain a law firm, you're retaining the law firm for the legal services, notwithstanding that most attorneys are gonna delegate a lot of it to paralegals. But at the end of the day, it's the attorney who you're retaining.
and the attorney is separate from Winstead, it's a totally different law firm for the WCIDs.
Well, no, Cap's saying that Winstead represents WCID.
They provide paralegal services, but the legal counsel is Matt Kutak. And he owns his own firm, he is not associated with Winstead.
No. So that,
It's different now?
that,
It's been that way since the beginning. Matt has always been the general counsel for the WCIDs.
well, I don't understand the paralegal services because
They're at the meetings taking minutes, they're posting agendas, they're preparing agendas.
so
Basically,
basically,
I went to WCID one meeting to find out, and he was like, I'm with Winstead, so we're like, okay, so Winstead represents WCID 1, that's where I got that idea from, so he's the paralegal there now.
Matt Kutak is the legal counsel, the general counsel. He owns his own Kutak LLC firm.
Yeah.
We use Winstead for paralegal services, providing agendas, meeting minutes, that,
Matt is who we worked with on the easement.
yes.
oh,
Okay, so there's,
so,
Okay, now I'm gonna change it, so then if
So-
we did the easement, we were working.
Yeah,
with
that makes
Winstead,
it
and we're working-
Yes.
so then paralegals are just basically acting as secretary, it sounds like.
Essentially,
So they're not providing any legal services?
not getting legal counsel
Okay.
instead.
Okay, I didn't know that, but that makes a big.
It makes it, yeah, that's why I wanted to speak, normally I wouldn't speak, but that's why I did.
Because I was like, I don't want to create another conflict of interest between us and WCID.
Problem solved.
Yeah, that makes me feel more, because I was like,
And the person that wanted it to, you know, to Trish's point, the person, the lawyer, the attorney that was representing Belterra back, you know, that scenario years ago, it was a different attorney, this Alex Hawkins was not. That's true. You know, directly associated.
that's true. I think Alex is under.
Essentially, but it's not. There are certain ones that deal more directly with the developers at Midstead, and Alex really doesn't generally. Because when I bought the property, we had Midstead and we meet out with developer stuff. There was a different attorney on the phone, and then when it was association stuff, Alex was on. the phone. Yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
So my,
Yes.
based solely on our video conversations. My interest in working with them is basically aligned with the order of met them. Right, the first person seemed like to step up. Then we had our attorneys, and then the other two felt secondary in both their presentation and their conversation. In the way they presented, so unless we were going with the first person you met with attempting to step up, the others fell lateral or downgrade. To me, not
So we met,
worth taking no action on.
with Hagel, RM, WBH, then Winstead, then Eden and Ireland. In case anybody need a refresher.
Yeah, I disagree with this attorney as a step down, only because of my experience with our current attorney, and I'm not impressed.
Let's be careful that we,
No, from a legal standpoint, I mean, not. Yeah, with some of the opinions that he's given, and it goes back to contention.
so you feel like the other three are a step up, is what you're saying.
Oh, I absolutely, all three of them.
I'm on the same page with you, Kegel and Key was my favorite.
Howard?
Howard, you have Howard's on the call, so Howard, do you have anything to add? I want to make sure, like, hold him over here so he can see.
Because we might need a title later.
And make sure you can be heard, Howard. Stop. Howard, can you say something?
Nope.
You don't want to say anything?
I'm good, just listening.
Okay. He's good.
All right, so then we will.
For the record, I like Cable too. I think he's an excellent attorney. I think that's a great firm. I don't know if we need that level of attorney and, you know, they were the costliest. So, yeah.
I actually went back through and spent an inordinate amount of time looking at these. And Nyman and Hyatt, from what I could tell, is the most expensive. Cable and Q is very interesting. They're a little bit more than RMWBH on a few things, but they were actually pretty in line, and they had some things where it's like, if they put a lien on, they charge, but then when it came time to take it off, they wouldn't charge you for taking it off. But all the other three law firms would charge you $100+ to take it off. So as I started diving into it deeper, I'm like, oh, they look more expensive on the front end, but kind of on some of the back end stuff they do, it's because they just filled it all in, if that makes sense. But yeah, they are more expensive than Winstead for sure.
And he wouldn't be doing most of the work.
Yeah, no. All right, any other discussion? Then we will, all in favor, say aye. Maybe do a raise of hands if you're in favor. So this, just so that way we're back, this is a motion made for Alex Valdez with Winstead. All in favor by Trish, seconded by Bob, all in favor, raise your hand, please.
Hold it up.
All right,
1,
and
2, 3,
and
hours 4.
all right, so, and then any opposed, raise your hand. All right, and that motion carries with Fred, Bob, Trish, and Howard. And me and Pete voting nay. All right, we are on to landscaping contracts. The board of directors asked management to solicit proposals for landscaping services. The proposal received from the 7 responding, that's a lot, landscaping firms included the incumbent land care and matrix comparing proposal are included in the board's packet. And sorry, I say that's a lot because often we send out for a lot and we get like 2 or 3 back.
No, I sent 9 and I got 7. I was shocked when they all showed up for the landscaping walk. I was like, y'all just keep showing up. Oh, business.
At their most,
Go ahead, no.
At their most recent meeting, the code committee unanimously voted to recommend continuing with land care as their service provider. In addition, management surveyed the Cove and Wellington residents regarding their satisfaction with land care. The results are linked for the board to see. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the landscaping contract?
So the caveat here, and I found this out not too long before we came into this meeting, the Wellington push mow option for land care, that is not the correct number. That is simply an amended number for, that should be moved up, and then they made a mistake with Dr. Device with the push mow option. So one small thing as an edit to that.
So do we have any idea how much push mowing would cost?
You can kind of see the difference in the jump between, he's not gotten that number back to me just yet, but you can kind of see the number between the code standard, which is what they use now, which is, they're smaller deck, but they're not push, like traditional push mow like we would do on our homes. It jumps, you know, just under $25,000. And these are annual numbers to do a push mow option, so you can take that proportionately and apply it to Wellington as well.
So that would be closer to 100,000, not 110, okay.
I know, it's a lot to digest, and two, I think there's an inherent benefit. I did make it very clear to all bidders that you are bidding the rec center and retreat as one contract and Wellington and Cove as a separate contract, and that there was no guarantee that you were going to get both, that it's possible the board could choose to award them separately. I made that delineation because sometimes landscapers will say, oh, well, you know, big money's in here, so I'll discount this, you know, contract over here. I would want them to consider it separately because I knew that they were 2 different levels of service. The Cove and Wellington folks get more of a gardening type of service, and then this is more of a commercial kind of an application. So that's why you see it presented the way. Now, there were 2 landscaping firms, as you can see, that declined to bid the Wellington and the Cove. That doesn't mean that you can't choose. I wouldn't choose that one. They come to the same property. I mean, honestly, I thought about just eliminating it entirely, but no, full disclosure board, here's everything. So, you know, you can do the rec center and the retreat, you know, awarded to a separate landscaping firm. Again, full disclosure, if you don't know, Sunscape provides landscaping services to both WCIDs. I did check with them to make sure they have nothing in their existing contract to their knowledge that prevents them from engaging with us, you know, to the conflict of interest kind of. I mean, it's separate properties, even though they're intermingled, so. So, yes.
I just know my blue bonnet, green dot in my house, I'm mad at them.
That's not their fault, that's direction from them. Yes.
The code committee recommended, depending on the survey, the landscaping survey, that they would retain land care as a service. Land care currently does their standard mowing with decks that they walk behind. They're like, you know, 4 feet across. And so the question was made, has been made the last couple of years, if certain homeowners wanted individual push mows done, they would accommodate that. So they do on occasion do push mowing, but that this contract would be everything is proportional. So, yeah, the whole committee said contingent on the survey, Marcia, will you give report the results of this survey?
Yes, I shared it with they were linked to the board packet.
So if you look at, yeah, both Cove and Wellington said that if you combine the very satisfied and satisfied categories,
I think we'll have the discussion, because we can see that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like over 69%. So I think the Cove's committee's recommendation is okay here.
So also in the comment section on the survey was a lot of things was like sprinkler heads get broken. The rocks getting like their stepping stones that they walk on get mowed over and broken. And I've heard that from residents who come and spoken here. And so I don't know, they didn't see this to be able to say like, they would all wanna change, stick with Lincoln or change to Pushmo, did they?
I shared it with Jim. I shared the survey results with Jim.
But I mean, the residents who were like voting on keeping land care, did they see like that push mowing was 25K more?
I didn't go listen to Jim.
That's-
Only to do-
Yeah, no, that's again, that's everything that's pushed bill. So where now what they do is they do decks, but a couple of homeowners, because of their, the roll off of their lands, the decks put big gouges in the lawn. So land care is accommodating that request, and Raul will go and 3 or 4 homes, he'll push it over those lawns.
Yeah, I think that's an important delineation. The landscapers who have provided quotes for a standard, instead of bush mowing, the cheaper option, would come in and just do the decks. They're with the relationship with land care over the years, they know which residents prefer their yard to be, and they've kind of allowed for that
Yeah.
in there, so.
At no extra cost, so the big complaint about land care is response time of here, their irrigation problems. So I think that could be dealt with, Marcia could deal with that thing separately, but, because they got a new manager, Ariel, so, so that I think could be resolved through that, so.
I think we need to establish a system, because he sent me a fat list of proposals for irrigation repairs for the Cove and Wellington. We don't pay for these, so there's some efficiencies to be realized in that.
So,
That's good to know, because that was some of the negative comments. I have broken sprinkler heads and they're not fixing them, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's not included in the contract, it's extra, like they would bill the homeowner for that.
And how many homes are there in these two? I'm just trying to get a gauge on like how many.
47 in Cove, 43 in Wellington.
Okay, so about half the people answered the survey and 70-ish% were happy
but,
with, either very satisfied or satisfied with.
but in Marcia, those numbers include 1 mulching, is that right?
Correct.
Good.
Okay. All right, would anybody like to make a motion regarding landscaping contract?
I'll make a motion to continue with land care for Cove on the standard price schedule of $77,604.
The Cove and Wellington, because they're considered together in a contract.
Was it and?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wellington had the same satisfaction rate.
yeah, motion for the Cove and Wellington to continue with land care.
May I have a second?
Second.
Trish, thank you. Any discussion?
So I'm interpreting this like advice to getting the land. 50K on the table for a Cove and Wellington as compared to Keller's pricing.
Yeah, and they're not aware of the price difference, were they when they took that survey?
No, the Philip was intended to just gauge their satisfaction with land care.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
I'm gonna rescind that motion.
Okay, it is a big difference.
If we were able to separate them out, I would be all in favor of allowing them to continue with land care, because that's their money, it's their separate motion.
We can hold a special meeting. That's really.
Is Welling Is Wellington their own or no?
No, no, they don't have a separate committee.
No, not a committee, but like, do they have a different budget?
No, it's all in the.
So Belterra in general pays for Wellington's billing.
Well, they don't have their own separate balance sheet financials because theirs is very straightforward. Whatever the landscape contract is divided by the number of homes and that's how much they pay. So it's easier to track. We busted out code because they have more variable expenses, like, you know, how many times did the gate go down, how many times do we have to repair it? And so we broke that out separately.
Okay, so Wellington would be paying that 85K.
Yes.
And not
amount is
Belterra in general. So they're happy with it and they want to continue with it. Maybe we do that, but we amend the motion to include telling them, giving them the price sheet before next year and having that included in this satisfaction survey. So that way they can say we're satisfied and we're happy to pay the extra 25K to continue this level of service.
Wait, how much your wallet?
43.
Look, 40.
47, I guess.
47, yeah.
43,
Oh,
but
40.
47. The issue is though, then the way it was couched to the bidders was these two would be awarded the same, like that they would be awarded together.
Yeah,
So we have to get Cove and Wellington to agree if we're going to get their buy-in and.
but I'm saying this for next year, so we approve it for this year.
Oh,
okay.
Gotcha.
And then next year, so essentially this would be next year, we would say, you know, give us, here's your satisfaction survey and also here are all the bids.
Mhm.
Do you want to continue to pay X amount for land care when these other ones are priced?
Right.
Like this, does that make sense?
Yeah, you just essentially you're saying we'll go back out to bid for landscaping next year, possibly. Yeah.
So just to refine that a little bit, I might not put the bids out as stated, because that could erode trust, but comment on what assessments could look like in an actual impact to the resident and make it more meaningful to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, so tell them like, if we go with colors and the cost.
Or do you have an opportunity to try a different landscaper, this could potentially reduce your individual assessment on your home by $100 a month? But it also has a risk that their performance might differ from what you're used to. Is this something you'd like to do to save that, or are you happy with the status quo? It's presented that way rather than.
I like that. So then, your feedback, this is coming, I love it. Cause when does our contract come up with these folks?
They're on an annual basis, so we're on month-to-month land care right now.
Okay, so what if rather than waiting until next year, we go ahead and do what Pete just said and send out a survey to Cove and Wellington and say, if we go with Keller, this is how much your monthly assessment will be. If we go with Land Care, this is how much your monthly assessment will be, Sunscape, Woodland, Urban Dirt, and then see what they want. Does that?
Yeah, you don't have to make a decision right now and, you know, truthfully, by the time that we were to make a change, you get notice of land care, you know, the landscaping company's taking over the dead of summer. That's not an ideal time for landscaping firms to take over, so you can just continue the way it is right now and then we gather more information.
Okay, I'm in favor of that.
Take a lead.
Okay, so tabling it and doing a survey with that information. Cause if they're loving the service, they might be like, look, we don't wanna go cheaper, because we might get cheaper, but.
So I wonder, is Keller commercial or residential?
They all have,
They're commercial.
yeah.
So the other thing that land care does, you know, the majority of people in the Cove are retired and older. And land care does a lot of requested work,
Yeah.
trimming, planting, moving bushes, stuff that the residents can't do. And to have someone come in to say, move 3 plants, it's gonna cost you hundreds of dollars. So, Pete, to your point, it's about $60 a month difference. And so you would blow through that number, having a landscape company do specific work. So, and the guys know the homes and the trees and the landscaping, so they know when to trim, what's dead, what, I mean, and I have no idea, color might be totally fine, but all these other nuances that are part of that decision, it's not just, you know, the money, so. So in the survey, it's color, is this, you know, they're gonna do this and they're gonna be gone and they're not gonna do anything else. If requested, sorry, you have to pay for it by the plan. So,
And that's possible, I mean, that's the process starting with the, right, is you're building that relationship, you're getting to know them, they're getting to know the property, and it can take a solid year from a landscaping perspective.
yeah,
To really see their full impact on your landscaping, if, you know, there's deficiencies, but also with this kind of very, personalized service that they provide, it can be hard to convey that expectation.
yeah, and there's 7,000 under the budget.
Well, and the issue is, I think, too, is I understand that, the COVID only half of it.
Oh, understand, oh, yeah,
And so I appreciate that feedback, and so we can kind of put that into the survey, and if the COVID one can come back completely different, and they have very different things, maybe we go back to two of you and say, hey, this was interested in you, this was interested in you, how does that change your pricing, and do we separate?
yeah, but I don't understand these urban dirt. There are only 4 homes more than Wilmington, why is it $20,000 more expensive?
Good question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the numbers are strange, so.
No, some of these numbers are all over the place. All right, so. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna table the COVID Wellington and just kind of get more information on them financially, just because the numbers are so variable. Are there any motions for rec center and retreat, or are we wanting to wait and?
I will move to people plan care for direction retreat.
Sorry, may I have a second? Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Pete. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously, it sounds like. All right, we are now on to the Zero-Taking Policy Review Committee Research Ideas with Chair Joe Thompson. Who, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Hopefully it's like
And
people,
our communications here are just riveting.
it's all good stuff. It's probably what we want here, right? Well, I'm Joe Thompson, elected chairperson of the News Airscaping Ad Hoc Committee, and we have a great group. Like, we got Marcia in there, Bob, Trish, and a couple others in there. It's a really diverse group of ideas and opinions, which is a healthy balance. But it's not really one-sided, so it's been some good communication. So those in the room that are not familiar with this committee, this came up last August due to the water shortage in the hill country and the urgent need to do something about conserving water in our area and come up with some alternative solutions for landscaping. And so the committee was put together, search was put on August 30th. We had a lot of people, I think, apply. I didn't realize how big it was going to be, right, Marcia? And then we were officially chosen on November 14th. And then our first meeting was on January 31st. And our last, most recent one was March 21st. So it's been about an 8-month span. And in that time, our 2 sources of water continued to decrease. So Marcia, do you have that slide that you can pull up? I'd like to just show this. So I pulled this yesterday. It was actually a different slide I thought I sent you. Is this the one I gave you?
There's one more.
Sent this one to the Buchanan and sent that.
All right, I said the wrong one. Basically, let's just go back to the first one.
Okay.
There is a historical average of the Lake Travis, but the biggest thing you see is the 37.2% full. So as of right now, Lake Travis is 2/3 empty, and we are about 18% lower right now than this time last year. So and we're about 60% lower than 2 years ago. So we're going into summer months. So assuming that it's gonna be hot this summer, which odds are it is, and we don't have enough water, we can imagine this time next year, we're gonna be in dire straits, right? And so I wish I had the other slide, I sent the wrong one, but we are in a crisis. It's a real water crisis, and we've been, as an entire city, kind of kicking this down the road, right? Kicking this can down the road. And so we have a great opportunity to get ahead of this. And I think that's why this committee needs to have, as a chairperson, a higher sense of urgency, right? Because we've been doing this for 8 months as a process, and we haven't gotten very far. So our
It's
first.
funny when you like start volunteering, you're like, oh, things should move slow. That was the first thing I learned when I joined the board.
Yeah, you want like business, you want done quick, right? Quick decisions, but I get it, it's a process. Lake Buchanan is 47.6%. So these are our two water sources that you see. One is 2/3 empty, one is half empty. So during our first meeting on January 31st, we had a couple of pages of items to like go over pros and cons. And 75% of those were artificial turf related, and 25% was like hardscape and plant alternatives as well. And so basically divided and conquered. And we assigned those out to everybody who was on the board, our group. And the idea was to do a Google search, like remember the Google search we did, to find pros and cons of all of those. Well, I left there very excited and dumped into it. And the good thing was that on the internet, everything is 100% factual and non-biased. You get in there and it's like, you can find whatever answer you want, right? And so I kept going through, I used ChatGPT and I'm going through all this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a fool's errand. Like I'm not getting anywhere I wanted to go. And so since most of the items were on artificial turf, the actual clinical studies, those are more geared towards playing surfaces, soccer fields, football fields, and parks. There wasn't really anything on like residential turf. Obviously, there's been advancements in that. The environment, the less hot, it looks real, it's got better infill for water absorption. So there wasn't really any studies on that. So I wasn't as excited going into the last meeting on March 21st, but went in there and we lost a member, I can't remember her name, Marcia, but we had one drop out. So her topics we didn't have a chance to discuss. The best thing about the meeting was Bob reached out to the WCID to get their input. And they were like, hey, this is awesome. Like, yes, please conserve water, do something, but time out, we have to consider runoff. Like, can we handle all this runoff, right? And so they were concerned about, assuming worst case scenario, 100% hardscape and turf combination too. They were less concerned about hardscape than turf, right, for the runoff. So they were, hey, let's call timeout. So we voted unanimously to kind of separate the two, a group for turf and a group for hardscape and plants, right? So that's where we were. So with that meeting, and we didn't really get to the hardscape. I don't think we actually covered any of that, which was important, but I think maybe some of those topics were somebody else that wasn't there. But in there, we went through a lot of hypotheticals, like worst case scenario, 100% every yard was covered with turf or with hardscapes, impact on the environment, insects, wildlife, heat dome, sound, like we covered it all. All these, random hypotheticals are very important to consider, but in my opinion, the one hypothetical that is reality is I think we're about to get a stage 4 water conservation notice from the water district. I think we're there. And when that happens, I'm not sure if you know that, you can't water. Like you can't water at all. And so I envision a situation of, trying to be forward thinking. There's homeowners that invested thousands of dollars in landscaping, right? Sod, grass, plants, you name it. And now they're told, hey, you can't water it. I'm willing to bet they're going to keep watering, right? I'm willing to bet they're going to say, fines be damned. I'm putting perfectly good drinking water on my lawn. And you're going to have some people like, let the weeds grow this high. There's some people like, I want a rockscape, but I hate turf, or I love turf, I hate rock. We're not going to be able to please everybody, right? It's not a one size fits all, but we have to come up with some type of solutions to get ahead of this crisis. And so the next phase in this is by May 30th, we're going to come together and research other comparable neighborhoods like Belterra to come up with like, what are they doing from a xeriscape perspective? Based on my last process, I'm thinking that's going to come up empty-handed. I think they're going to do the exact same thing we're doing. I don't think anybody's going to do anything more creative. They're probably looking at it, probably considering like we are, but I don't see any neighborhoods that are like doing something way ahead of the curve. So I don't think that is a great task to do, because I'm thinking, as a committee, we cannot change the bylaws. We can just make recommendations, right? And so, as only the board can change the bylaws. So my recommendation as a chairperson is to us to not look at like communities in Austin that like size, or Dallas is different, Houston. We're just amateur researchers, we're not experts on this by any means. Like, the only people that would be experts would be the WCID. Is instead of us trying to be amateurs or going on Google or looking at this other neighborhoods, is look out west. Look at Tucson. Like, Tucson has been there for years. The water crisis hit them first, and they're doing a lot of things. And there's real data in that market that we can look at to compare to, as opposed to Circle C or something like, right? So I feel like in a few years, like I think right now, I think putting perfectly good drinking water in the lawn is idiotic. I think it's dumb. I think very soon, I think we'll look back on this and it'll be comparable like smoking on planes or driving around with an infant on your lap. We did it. It was dumb, but we did it. I feel the same thing about when I woke up last summer and I turned my faucet on, there was no water, and the notice came out, oh, we depleted our resources because we waited our water the lawn last night. I thought that's just the definition of insanity. So we have a great opportunity though to get ahead of this. So this committee's perfect, but my ask is just to, we need to act with a higher sense of urgency on this to give our homeowners better options. So thank y'all for that, and I'll answer any questions you'll have.
Okay, so I've attended the last two WCID one meetings, because this has been on their agenda. Have y'all already met with, it sounds like they're wanting to do like a code thing with y'all, where their engineer meets with y'all to discuss things, so has that happened, or is that forthcoming?
That has not happened. So in our last minute, they sent us a letter, Bob provided a copy, and basically it's like, hey, we love it, we love this, but give us time. They can't just go out and figure this out. They got to get their engineers involved and figure it out. So we haven't met with them.
The last communication I had with MLC was that they were trying to nail down a date for that, and I think it was like March 29th or something, and she said, no, we can't do that, because that means it's gonna be, because they already have, I think that's what they call it, between WCID 2 and WCID 1, so they were inviting me and one the board member to the table, so we think Bob would be a good person, because he's on the xeriscaping committee, to start this conversation and get that going. So I'll reach back out to MLC and see if they've been able to nail down when the next date for that. And put her on the spot, but Samantha said she might know the next date.
Well, I mean, that happened in WCID one, but year two, so I don't want to put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
but I know that was part of
That's
the,
a joint committee and it would be a special meeting, so there's no specific date, you should find one.
she has to find one.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll reach out to that and see if we can get that, nailed down. Because I did get reached out to me from their engineering firm, what's her name? Can't think of it off the top of my head. Lauren, thank you. She's like, hey, do you have something for me to review? And I said, oh, we're not there yet, because it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg kind of a situation here. So her stance on it is she's waiting for a draft of a revised xeriscaping policy from us for her to review. So we just need to kind of get everybody to up.
Yeah. I just don't
They
know.
don't want to put something together that they are like.
Not that they're gonna
Yeah.
completely like
Yeah.
redline it, so we can
Yeah.
all that into it, yeah.
As of right now, we don't have really any solutions we haven't discussed any solutions.
Okay.
So we don't have, like, if we met tomorrow, we couldn't say, hey, here's some ideas what we should do.
Right.
We're not. there
Because
yet.
at the WCID one meeting, the engineer was like, it's 100% zero state.
Yeah.
And I mean, she went like,
I was like,
doomsday, and we just she started talking about like the runoff and how erosion would happen and all this, and I was like, So I'm glad to hear that that's gonna be on the table. And then the other thing I learned is y'all are looking at updating the plant list. So you have two separate kind of areas of your committee right now. Is there a third one looking at the plant list?
No,
Or
it
no?
was about,
Two plants are kind of looped in together with the xeriscaping, which is probably a bad way to handle it, because native plant, promoting data plans isn't necessarily so extreme.
It's not, and that's why I was surprised to hear that that was happening with the committee, but Marcia pointed out, it's nice to have it all on one document, which I agree with. And so that's part of the reason I wanted you here tonight, was so that way we can chat about what the direction is of the committee moving forward, and that we're all on the same page.
Well, and part of this is deteriorating quality of the entire plant list too, though, so we've got some duplicity in some of our documents, and that's why I wanted to get one, you have to go with the document.
That's a good idea.
This is why at the last year's committee meeting, I made the motion that we separate two scopes of work from artificial turf being on one side, because that's gonna be a slow process, because it's not just runoff and surface, it's also environmental resource. There's a lot of information that we can find, plastics to break down, artificial turf, and what that would run. So that's gonna be a very slow process, working with the WCAE. And we're gonna have to look at history and groundwater protection district, probably have to. We'll talk about the environmental implications of that. The xeriscape part of the plants can be quicker if we can put together a list of plants, because that's just gonna be almost solely a purview board of managing that. Modifying the plant list would be 100% purview board without having to look at any partner agencies versus xeriscape committee does have a more wider indication of partnerships for people.
Yeah.
So, hardscape component, that's also a concern, that's part of xeriscaping, that's a concern for the CIDs because of water runoff. So there's a lot of.
Okay, so how many, because I'm just reading from SPC perspective, if I remember correctly, there were 3 people who said I'm a certified Texas master gardener. And the original plant list that they see on the website has non-native invasive species, and they are very vocal in wanting that to be changed. So we all potentially have 3 seats where we could try to seat some master gardeners and have like, 3 different pieces working together. Where are you all at on that?
Yeah, I would be open to having somebody with expertise. One person who has expertise would be somebody that does turf installations, and he knows turf. But we don't have anybody that has any plant expertise.
Okay, so how many seats do y'all have that are open right
We had one drop out. Did we fill that? I didn't do this, yeah.
I think it should be one position that goes, you know.
I
Doesn't
don't
mean
know.
we're gonna amend the charter.
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna know, I really-
Bringing more experts in plants and if we can get maybe next couple of meetings, like that's important. Signing off of those meetings, right?
I second, any discussion?
Let's say there's amending it, or just saying, hey, Tom, clock, give us your recommendation, and then the rest of us will vote on, what they don't actually have to be. Committee member, we don't jump through those hoops, right? Or
Good point.
Yeah, and as a part of the committee, when Joe comes forward with recommendations, there may need to be a transition plan, because you can't expect every homeowner to all of a sudden come up with $10,000 to go from lawn plants to rocks. And
Yeah, it's not a requirement, it's an option.
So it would just be like moving forward, and you put more plans in, or
Yeah.
moving forward, if you wanted to zero speak the site, you could do it.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
Belterra, it's the developers. So now it's up to the homeowners. So, well, I have friends who live in Phoenix, when the home was built, they did xeriscaping. So it was part of the original mortgage and stuff, so that's the issue with Belterra is stuck. So, just to be, so whatever recommendations there, should come up with a dollar amount, Joe, per lot, the average Belterra lot. So to do this is $2,000, to do this is 5, artificial turf is whatever you pay. It'd be good to offer some people just to say, oh, put it in supplements.
Yeah, no, this is just gonna be as people choose to update, and make your recommendation, so how would you like to move forward? Would you like us to expand the committee so that way those working on the plan list would be part of the committee? Or would you like it just to be ad hoc?
Yeah, I actually like the ad hoc just to, that makes things easier to me. I mean, they're gonna be in the room, they're consulting us. I think that would be, it's good enough for me.
Right, so are y'all board members comfortable with me going back into the survey and pulling those who said they were master gardeners interested in helping and sending that list to Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so then that's what we'll go with that route.
And I honestly think this could be an asset to the neighborhood, that we do something like this, right? I think that people be like, okay, you can't water your lawn anymore. Here's a community that already allows certain things, right? And so I think it'll be an attraction. Especially, I think Austin's a place that likes to conserve natural resources. So I think this would be a huge value add to the community.
Belterra could be an example to us.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what we talked about.
Shining example, and then I don't know specifically with the plants, I'd be interested in just y'all looking at grasses as well. I think we allow 3 grasses right now. I think 2 of them are pretty water heavy. So for me, and I agree, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're not looking at plants, we can plant, but also what are the grasses would be a challenge. Okay.
So as far as, out on the border here, the charter states that at this time, the committee was to bring the research ideas for board consideration and approval for following the process. And it would have been kind of all over the place a little bit, but that's what's linked in your board packets and the script. And some of the committee members have already started to kind of put some of that information that they researched into it, but the actionable item here for the board is the review of that research idea research idea list, and making sure that you feel comfortable with that and go forth with the, so the committee knows that they're on the right direction.
Motion, you did not say yeah. Sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah, you don't have to.
We're not, can you add to the list the plant? But I don't know if you guys see that.
It's really good.
So our next item of the agenda is to compare other neighborhoods for the next meeting. Is that what we'd still like us to do? That's the only thing that's listed currently on this.
Once you do that. So is that comparing other neighbors in our area?
It says, it just says other neighborhoods of like similar to Belterra unit count, residents. I don't, this is very similar to that.
That sounds good to me, but I do agree it should be maybe EU, Arizona, and California, and Nevada have been doing it more. Does that sound good to y'all? Because I don't know if people around here.
With a comfortable climate.
Okay, I like that. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing the work, so I don't wanna
No.
look for something you don't want.
And then have the specialists attend the next meeting, which we have not booked yet, by the way. We need to.
Scott, we can find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
There are 2 things that were impacting. So one was concern, I guess, from the garden, the rubber ground invasive species being planted, right? So if we choose to eliminate things from the plant list, we can. So I always expect that we go forward. Elements of for new construction, new plantings, not these, whether it's whatever. And the other thought I had, I guess, would be the enforcement, the code compliance, and what a clean zero escape lawn looks like. It's probably meaningfully different from what a clean natural gas and grass lawn, which is a very tight turf lawn. So having some forward thought about the different standards that would be with this, so that anybody looks at one of those 3 scenarios and say, yes, it's what we.
Right, because you're escaping that, I mean, there's still upkeep, it's not like you just throw a bunch of ground down and walk away from 5 years, grass pokes up through, weeds poke up through. There's always some sort of upkeep to the water.
I'm gonna add that.
Yes, and then maybe show this,
Zero escape section has maintenance standard, so we can expand on that.
That's.
Marcia, do you have access, you know you work in some of Arizona as well, do you have access to their guidelines?
Oh, yeah, I've got, Arizona, we're gonna mention Arizona and Nevada.
Okay, that'd be good to have. Yeah.
Am I wrong, Sarah?
You are absolutely right. I just would have thought California would have been nice state.
The climate's pretty, the laws are horrible. Yes, very restrictive. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And please tell your committee thank you for us, we appreciate it.
Sure. What's sir?
All right, so we didn't motion anything with that, we gave the nod, I saw the nod. We are. Yes, we are on to the amenity use agreement with the Marlins. So. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the 2024 amenity use agreement with the Belterra Marlins?
Somebody. To accept the.
All right, so there's been a movement to accept the 2024 amenity use agreement by Trish. Any seconds? Wait, do we have a second? Fred. All right, and so any discussion? So one thing we talked about last year, their first, or one of their swim meets was on the first day of summer, the first Saturday of summer. We had some kickback. I felt like, I should have learned this, but I felt like we discussed not allowing that in the future, making that kind of a blackout date. So June 1 is the first Saturday of summer, and the Marlins have a swim meet that day. We've already discussed with the chair, and he went to the swim meet, and they said we can't change it, schedule set. So I would move to amend that motion that we accept this and add into the contract that starting in 2025, we have Memorial Day weekend and the first weekend of summer as blackout dates for swim meets. So that way, residents having those two special weekends at the pool.
So are you redefining the first day of summer?
No, the first Saturday of summer, the first weekend of summer.
The first summer after school, that first Saturday.
First Saturday of school, okay.
That's what
Summer.
Yeah, summer break. Oh, summer break.
So the
Oh.
first Saturday after school, like.
Yeah. Based on DSISD's calendar. So I move we amend the motion.
Yeah, okay.
I move we amend the motion to add blackout dates starting in 2025 for Memorial Day weekend and the first weekend that DSISD is out of school.
Second.
Bob seconds.
John
Any motion?
suggests that he had the ability to comply with that, just given advance notice, or is that going to be a problem? He just asked late this year.
Yeah, it's asked too late this year, so we could not make that change, but it seems like it, once he knows well in advance, it's not gonna be an issue.
Okay.
So we essentially, I don't think we communicated well last year now.
I'm sure it'll not impossible early, just an easy box to check.
Howard texted me and said, there's only, you really don't wanna talk, do you, Howard? There's only one other team posted 3 meets. So I guess there's only one other team in Belterra that most of the locations are limited, I suppose.
Yeah,
So-
well, and also we're the largest, and so some facilities struggle holding our swim team, which is a good point.
Can't imagine, that's a little smaller, because this is like, can't stir the people to stick out there.
Okay, and then, let me see. Oh, wait, where are we on? We are on, any other discussion? No, all right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks for coming again. All right, motion carries unanimously, it sounds like. We're there. So we're on to item 7. The audio system at the pool has historically been intermittent, however, it has now completely stopped working. As the original installers of the rec center and pool sound system, Ford AV has provided an estimate to replace 2 inoperable outdoor speakers in the amplifier, causing the outage at an estimated cost of $4,395. Given that the labor is estimated and the actual labor hours will be billed accordingly, it is recommended that if we choose to move forward with this, that we approve a cost not to exceed $5,000 payable by reserves. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the pool audio system repair? All right, Bob motions that we approve. May I have a second? I'll second it. And any discussion?
Marcia, where are we at on the reserve schedule for that audience?
The what?
The reserve schedule, when we have our own reserve schedule.
Yeah, it's covered reserves, I don't know, I didn't look at that. I can look at that.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, like, how does our audio system work? Is it radio? Who determines the station? Since we won't have lifeguards, who can turn it on Saturday?
She picks the station, and when they play too much Beyonce, or her new comes. It's a lot, I do.
No, I
it's,
can barely hear all of it.
it's through Sonos, and I actually did ask the tech when he was out here, I said, how can you have the homeowners control? And he said you can do that all through the Sonos app, so there's just a learning, where people can log into it. We have to basically put it on the Sonos has to be connected to the Wi-Fi that the residents can connect to.
So, I don't know how I feel.
Yeah,
But. Because I could do some fighting. Samantha.
Residents being able to use the, like, well, Byron is our audio guy.
Set playlists that are clean and family obedient, and so we don't run into folks, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah.
What made me think of it is I visited a friend with a community in like northwest Dallas. And they have on their wall, just this little box that you walk up to, and it has 5 station options. And so the person physically gets up, walks to it and touches it. I just feel like if I'm on my phone, like, I remember not, and then after 5 minutes, that person's gonna,
Yeah, that's a lot more money.
Yeah, I know. You are correct, so we don't need to do that. That was just like.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
But technically it's the Sonos app that we use, and really you can, if you have Spotify, you can put whatever you wanted to on there. Leave it on Sonos. So, but yeah, I usually try to pick a station. I vary it, we walk in there one day and be 80s stuff, next day it'll be country, yeah.
There you go.
Select the station.
You can select the stations. Well, they have like radio stations. They have like, yeah, you can do like some radio stations. Or you can do genre, just like you would with any other app, you can use it however you want. So if we wanted to pick a playlist of, 50 different songs, we have those 50 songs in there and they just play on repeat. Or, like I do, 80s hits. Okay, so that gives me, the top 20 80s hits in the time or whatever, so you can tailor it however you want to.
Okay, I like that. Cool. All right, and then. Yeah. And then from that app, is that how you turn it off, turn it on, and control the volume? Or can we have a preset, can we preset the volume and not let people mess with it? Because that's also.
Well, that's only, that's on the,
And I could ask Courtney,
Oh,
I
I
could have an axe volume on it. But I know
And
that
I can-
that we could turn up the volume, turn it.
yeah, I can adjust it, because we've got one for inside the foyer, and then we've got one for pool.
Okay.
We've got pool audio and for air audio.
Okay, so yeah, maybe if there's like a max volume, so that way she. Yeah.
I have lots of sound systems. So I don't know how to create a glass wall that lets people access it without giving them total control.
Yeah.
To add their own, have the music account to it and take it over. So
That's,
there are some physical keypads that we tie to specific playlists that you will find, but they're IKEA and not commercial. So you can get great sound, or it might have to be the DJ, they don't need to be a control with the management in that ecosystem. It's not fully built out for this, it's built out for homes and curated spaces with individuals with control, not jukebox like thing. So,
yeah.
not saying don't do it. The temper expectations was possible without.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is who turns it on the weekends when you're not here? Is there a way to set it? So
I usually just keep it.
Well, you can set time.
Yeah, you can set time.
Like at my previous community, we set at the pool close, 10 o'clock, so at 9:59, we played closing time.
Yeah.
So when you hear closing time, you need to wrap it up and go home, so you can set, yeah, it's like, oh, there's called alarms in there, so you set an alarm in that specific playlist, so. People who are early morning swimmers like, a little bit more easy listening music, and then maybe a Saturday afternoon, it's a little more teen pop, top 40 kind of stuff, so.
Okay, and then the big names of brown. No, it's country in the evenings, okay. Okay, so I think. Since there's no way to like control, I think maybe I'll just set it on a timer to start and roll.
This will, right, it's all, I will continue with all those options. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tweets. Yeah, we make all meetings, say, hey.
Yeah. Maybe I'll spare me.
At the very least, the sound of music's not working now, we need to get it fixed.
Yeah, okay, awesome, and any other discussion? No, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful, motion carried unanimously. Now we are on to amenity signage. With recent updates to the amenities of Belterra, we are taking the opportunity to update the signage as well. The board's packet includes proposed replacements and a few new signs. The sign updates would be in conformance with the new state law requirements that specify letter height and verbiage requirements, which y'all, they are very specific. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the new signs as presented?
So we do have some pictures in the presentation, and here's the kind of breakdown of, in case you look at these signs and you're like, dear God, Marcia, how big is that sign? There's certain language that must be the letters must be 4 inches in height. Yeah, Fred, you're looking at me like, are you kidding? No, I'm not.
I know,
4 inches, yeah.
I was so excited for new signage, because I was like, there's so many signs at the pool, like, we can finally get rid of them, and it's like, oh no, state law dictate that we have to have 6 signs when you enter the pool.
And some of them some of the verbiage requirements involved the word diarrhea in too big of letters that I would ever like to see.
Yeah.
But it's required, so don't shoot the messenger. But let's have fun stuff. This is an example, kind of what we're looking for. This is the current sign, no trespassing, we will have you arrested. Oh no, welcome to the rec section. Here are hours that you must use a clock. So, Kat and Bob were nice enough to kind of, I found, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So trying to get a much more friendly approach. We don't have pictures of all the signs, but this is an example of what the current pool signs look like.
And just so you know, the rules have changed.
Yeah.
So the new sign is going to be larger, gigantic.
This sign is 100, will be 120 inches wide.
That's typically.
Oh my God.
Communication, curious.
It's insanity because of I literally had to go research like what font size in what specific font type will yield me letters that are this tall, and
You know, the amount of time we've spent on signage, I feel like it's collectively more than anybody to read.
is there?
Just under the age of 13 plus not in the pool.
But that was not in the whole.
You must not in the pool. No, just not. No, I will do another final edit. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, but
I didn't put it so big.
yeah, for this, I didn't have that, but it was. Well, yeah, absolutely. So again, we're talking here, maybe capture, let's put some,
These are dangerous.
but again, too many kinds of work there. School hours, mass use or low, these are all again by law requirements, it came from emergency, down 111, here's the address. Now, this is I'm super excited about Fire and Darla, do we love this?
We love this for the first 2 days.
This is a gate prop alarm. If you prop the gate open and leave it open, you're going to hear a god awful alarm.
It is.
Extremely annoying.
We're in there working with your. Yeah, sure.
I hate to bring this up at 12.
Yeah.
Are we pairing this with the 30-6 and 30-7 signage required by the state to actually prohibit firearms? Number 12.
There's nothing in that about the.
Number 12, prohibiting firearms, that's
Firearms.
legal prohibition of firearms.
Well, then we can add another sign.
Yeah. I wanted one side.
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
That carry very specifics.
So,
Okay,
we
can
took
we
that
talk
off.
about somebody bringing their gun to the pool and like submerging it in water?
Yeah, the lots.
What if we just say no weapons? Did we get that around?
No.
No,
It's got to be 30 on 6 or 30 on
And
7.
so if you,
I would stay on.
Yeah. it
Even
does.
then, it's on the tree, it's trespass.
And that one, it even has to be a certain sign, I have my LTC, so
Yeah,
we're gonna
okay.
do that.
okay, so,
So that won't be able to be included in it, that would have to be a completely different sign.
okay, so firearm sign, I'll make a note.
You can leave it just general, we don't want terms of.
What do we need to know?
We bought.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right, so does the board want to take it out or get the other sign?
I think Bob was proposing both.
I'm proposing, we leave it in there as a general.
Okay.
And then back up with the 30 on 6 and 30 on 7 signage.
And we probably need to look at exactly where it needs to be, because I think it has to be on the entrance door.
Yeah. So what we can
In
do
black and white.
is, since we're gonna have some changes, obviously, is, no motion tonight, but I will go through, make these changes, the board to do a whole, vote, but in the spirit of this evening, does anyone have any issues with the aesthetics?
Oh,
All of these are linked in your packet to the folder that contains all of the signs if you wanna go look at every single one. So like I didn't include it, I don't think I included it in here, but like the gym roll sign, a little friendlier, enjoy your workout, kind of thing, and then, we took the rules, the existing rules, and kind of just tweaked a little bit of the language, made it a little friendlier and.
made it more positive and kind.
It's good work.
So, okay, anyone, I'll circle for a final vote to the board, with everything updated and folder on that.
Okay.
Is everybody happy with where we're at so far?
So on the, this thing,
Yeah.
presumably it has to be able to be defeated when there's a swim meet because the gate's open all day, because the visiting teams are outside parading in for every call for the fire.
It can't be overridden, however, my concern is the intent of this is for the gate to not be open and for safety, because if the gate is propped open, that is a concern of liability.
Right.
So I will say the swim meets are a little different, they assign a volunteer who's there, they rope the front pool off. And there are more adult eyes on that bottom pool than I think ever are all summer.
So it's not something.
They could assign someone to the door to open and close it, but that person would be opening and closing it a lot. So if you could override it only for swim meets, I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, that's why it's a pretty beefy piece of equipment, and huge thanks to my colleague in Treviso and Leander, because he did this and I went, oh, yes. But yes, it has a special key to override it.
Okay, so we could maybe give that key to John, and then he's responsible to turn it off,
Right.
and then I turn it back on,
Yeah.
after the swim meet.
Correct. Yeah, I would be comfortable with that if the board's comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I mean, we were at a swim meet one time, sure. When my girls were little, and my girl went and just like put their feet in the like water, like went and sat on the edge and just put their feet in the water. I mean, I volunteered, like as my kid was sitting down to do it, was like, you can't be in that pool. I was like, oh. They're like, that's great. I'm not concerned during swim meets.
I read a little more on this, of when he's gonna get painted with this, with the, this is driving me nuts. It will be painted, so. All right, that's.
Before we turn over, a follow-up question, because I think, right, Jim was talking about team events and teams bringing their friends, and I was reading the pool rules, and the rules say you can bring 5 guests per family, but I remember a discussion from several years ago about a Girl Scout troop or something that wanted to use the facility, and we said, no, they all have to be residents. And so if anybody knows, can provide a quick refresher on what activities, spaces, who is allowed to bring a guest who's not a resident, and what things must only be open to residents can do. non-residents come to ping pong.
The thing with the Girl Scout troop not being allowed to inspect for child society, and what I understand, that was just a unilateral decision that was also not looked favorably upon.
The board quickly walked that back. And so I think it came down to if it's a nonprofit that over 50% are residents, then they can use this room, and I think it's for free for nonprofits.
So hypothetically, right, there are some students who go to Rooster who don't live in Belterra. They're on Sawyer Ranch and those other communities, but they get shipped in here. And so could they participate in Marlins as a member of that organization and utilize the pool as a non-resident?
Marlins,
Given that Marlins is entirely.
Marlins has we have a strict no non-residents with Marlins because
I was told that there's it's all Belterra residents with the Marlins, so, but I don't get involved with them.
I don't know who set that rule.
Well, that's right, we got these spectrums of things, maybe we should, if we have different terms, identify what that is as the percentage.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the Marlins and other swim meets, they have.
They have entire teams.
Yeah.
So,
Outside, so I mean,
but
yeah.
like, we want to have clarity on, an open team event or some other thing, whatever. We should have at least be able to point to something and say, these are our official rules.
It's a good point, because like I brought my family who doesn't live here to their Thursday, like my parents come with me. And I think that's okay. I don't know.
I wouldn't.
I think within reason, it should be. I mean, just like we have birthday parties, people, reserve the back pool area for birthday parties. You can't tell me that, out of 15 10-year-olds, that all of them live here in Belterra, or the grandma and grandpa aren't there or something. I think within
Kick out the
reason.
grandma and grandpa.
Sorry, but you gotta go.
Yeah, so are you wanting, are you wanting a more specific set of rules or just continue to use reasonable judgment?
Well, it would be nice to know if we have different rules for different organizations. It sounds like maybe we do. And maybe that's okay based on the size and the scope, or maybe it's not okay, but like, what is that landscape? And then when we understand the breadth of the arrangements we have and our best practices, we can harmonize in something that makes sense and give you advice going forward. So somebody, we're gonna do team events. A great idea, we're gonna execute it, and they're gonna tell them, bring their friend. I have no idea at this moment in time whether that's okay or not. Are the friends guests of the participants, which by these rules is okay, as long as each person brings no more than 5 of their friends with them, or is it a club which has some other guidelines or what?
Oh, yeah, I guess the clubs are where there's different guidelines and
The spirit of the guests being limited is because the pool space is limited and it has an occupancy load, and so you don't want, one household to bring 40 people down, because then that takes away from how many residents can use it, so.
40 Belterra residents, 200 guests in the pool, that would be a problem. So.
That's very true. It's very true.
So are you wanting us to discuss this in a future meeting to figure out, or are you?
I'm asking for the information and sort of what if anything we're aware of that exists and what precedent. And we can decide based on that. Is there no precedent and it's all just that judgment, or do we have different lines and stand that we should then work to reconcile?
So do you want to, so make that maybe a discussion topic for a board workshop coming up? Does that sound good to you?
Fine.
Okay, so good, let's do that. All right. Now, thank y'all so much for coming and making it through the agenda, and for those who presented, we really appreciate it. And we are open for, do I close the meeting before resident forum? We are open for resident forum. So if you'd like to come on up, please speak.
Jim, that's.
Come on,
Come
up.
This is quick, so I chair the COPE committee, so we were chartered in November of 2022. And I think we have about 7 issues that were identified and have been working on those, and thanks to help with Marcia and Darla and Byron, think of those, all the 2 have been resolved. So thank you all for it. The latest one is both the entrance gate, which has been working flawlessly, which is.
It has been so long.
Make sure this was wood.
Yeah.
Heavily.
Thank you for coming.
So, and I think one of the two will be resolved, the Mendocino Lane, there's an issue with its life cycle and how good it is. And so, the committee, proposed that, Marcia, request services of a civil engineer, do a foundation study to see what's it like. I personally think the road looks fine. Doesn't get much usage either, other than garbage trucks, occasional landscape contractors. So I think that's gonna be resolved. And the issue is whether there's sufficient reserves. And I think there would be, at this point with what's being done. So I think that's fine. The other issue, I kind of need the board support if if they can do something. So, Belterra is not a front porch community. We all hang out in our patios. It's a back porch community. And so people spend time, sitting, barbecuing, whatever they're doing out there. And so the issue we had requested WCID was to plant some trees in the Mockingbird Trail area and then any other areas where trees were moved for ice damage. And several of our residents have been to the board meetings, and I was at the board meeting in November. There's some precedent that they have where they have planted trees for privacy. But Samantha Bethby's been kind enough to answer all my questions about other issues like mowing the green spaces and how they're watered, and all that's been communicated, and any other ice damage tree that wasn't removed, so that's been resolved. But the tree planting for privacy for the trails is still unresolved. And I asked Marcia to check with our lawyer, so we can't use the code excess reserve funds to either plant trees. If we requested them to be planted on WCID property, we can't do that. And we can't plant trees in individual homeowners' property in lieu of WCID not planting trees. So really, at this point, Samantha has responded that, that decision is done. There'll be no more planting. So I don't have a good resolution. The only alternative is for residents to plant trees in their own backyards, which they can certainly do. But, trees are anywhere between $200 and $1,000 to plant. And so, it's an issue. So if the board can do anything at this point to help intercede on this issue, because, we have funds, but we can't use them. So, and WCID has decided not to do any planting. So that's where we are.
I mean, we moved that money into reserves, I think, based off of the code's request. Because reserves is funded over 100%.
Well, that was part of the developers transfer fund, so that wasn't really extra money. It was.
Oh, I thought we did a reserve transfer for the code.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the developer did it.
Yeah.
Are you asking us to intercede at the WCID? We will try to.
Yeah, just
Try
to
to
say,
leverage them.
just to say, hey,
Their property.
yeah, can you, plant
No, he wants them to plant.
3 or 4 trees,
Not using code money, because it's already behind that they cannot.
they cannot use it, yeah.
In any account, regardless of what account.
Regardless of what account. They cannot use money to improve land that's not theirs.
Yeah.
Or it's not spelled out in that supplemental
That's
declaration.
the problem. We don't own that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wait, can we change the supplemental declaration?
Change the supplemental declaration, and it would require, I don't know if it would require the entire membership or just code books, I have to look.
Because we could change that and have it say something to the effect of code, capital code can utilize funds to, improve privacy for residents
Or it's just.
by planning on or off code property. I don't know, so we could change it somehow so that way,
Yeah,
if the code wanted to be, they could utilize.
Utilize funds, even if it's not on their land, they provide direct benefit from.
Yes.
It's hesitation on this, that they didn't want additional planting on their property, or that they didn't have funding.
that wasn't clear. I understood there was funds available in the Mockingbird Trail Development Fund. but I never saw a specific answer to that question.
So I would say that we need clarification from you before we can take action on that, because if it comes down to us telling the wicked that they have to plant on their property, I don't think we're gonna do that, because we don't own that property, we have no legal authority to tell them. what to
Yeah,
do.
it would be, you're
If
going,
it comes down to them saying we're willing to engage in this discussion, if you can provide the funding, then we can potentially look into that, but we're not gonna try to leverage it with a group that we have no authority over to make a decision.
yeah, I mean, I can go to the next WCAD board meeting and make that request. But it would be good to be able to use the funds. I mean, I think we're talking about $10,000 or less with properties involved.
I don't
Put a
know if
couple
we
of
can,
trees at each property, you know, so.
I don't know if we can change the rules around the reserve, because the reserve has state laws around what it can be used for, but we could potentially change it so that way you can utilize your operating fund.
It's actually not big enough in Texas, but I'm going back to.
Wait, really? I thought once it was in reserve, I thought once it was in reserve, it had to be utilized.
Not in the state of Texas.
Oh.
There are other states that have that restriction, but not Texas.
Okay.
Well, I'm mistaken about a lot.
Yeah. So I'll go to the meeting, next board meeting and make that request. Because that area is part of the, you know, it's really a fire break. It's not greenbelt, it's a fire break, and it's cleared and it's mowed and it's irrigated. So,
Well, the irrigation isn't for irrigation, the irrigation is for reclamation of water back into the aquifer.
exactly, but you know, and it's initial trees, you know, but once you plant them, you know, they're good. So I'm sure the people would want more than willing to go out there and water the trees themselves, but yeah, it's more of an issue that our hands are kind of tied going forward, so.
Yeah, so our thing is, we just wanna make sure our relationship with those WCIDs, we respect them, we enjoy working with
And they've done a
them.
lot of things to help clarify the current, you know, mowing and irrigation, everything that's going on, so that's been great. Just, this is the last open issue, is the privacy of
And
trees.
they do a lot of good things, and so if they come back and they say, if you provide funding, you can plant trees, and they point where, 'cause I'm sure there's certain spots that they would prefer, then we can look into potentially changing.
Okay, I'll make that request for this board.
So you said, I think that this is a handful of houses and like $10,000. So how do the make up a number, 36 unaffected homes in the code be allowed putting trees in for the 4 affected?
I haven't asked, I don't think they would care, but I certainly can ask.
That would be the second part of the equation. I think the first question has to be. And then after that, we would have to research the legality of it, and then after that, we would research the entire. Allow their money to be used for.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah, see, they use the definitions. All the other, this is a second. Standalone.
I don't understand why I continue to see people putting pools in them right now. When we can't build the pools. Theoretically.
That's
That's
good.
not that they're not getting on the water.
And it's like yours, they were all, this is.
Yeah, I just looked at the supplemental declaration, even the supplemental to go, has 67%. Oh, yeah, I know, I'm really looking to know that I don't know, it's a lot of WCID. It's like we really know. And then it has to be. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's, I shouldn't say that everybody knows that we did a truck in the water. In there.
To get house.
You have to get 67%. All of Belterra, because it is a supplemental declaration to the master CCNRs. It is not a standalone CCNR, so it has to be approved by the.
67%.
So that's the whole, and is that 67% of voters or 67% of households?
Yeah.
Good.
And that's to say no more pools in those areas?
No, we're talking about to change the code supplemental declaration to allow them to expend their funds on non-government. Yeah, sorry, I went back. I didn't want to see him treading water on that, and then I tell him 2 days from now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can only make the request that I see it. So the other. You'll see the next slide, so we can't plant You can't give them money unless they establish express. No, because orders we can't do that. So the only option is either have devastating plant trees, couple trees, or to have residents plant their own trees in the check.
Or
And
if WCID says it's okay, those residents could give money to WCID to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it can't write that,
Yeah,
it's another option, but
Cause I mean, I'll be honest, I backed up to a green belt and there's a trail back there and I don't get a lot of privacy. So if they, like, I understand them not wanting to do it because then it's like, oh, well, they did it for these 5 houses. And I'm gonna be like, hey, can I get some privacy from the trail behind my house? So it becomes hard.
yeah, the issue with that trail is there's an open access to Mendocino Lane on the south side. So there's signage at the gate that says don't enter, service vehicles only. But there's no gate on the other end that says do not enter private street, which I had asked for also, and that was not approved. So the problem is people wander, like for the eclipse day, people were walking all over the place and they would walk on, and when one of the people was hosting a party on the street, and people were walking saying, we can't get out, let us out the gate. So the trail is just too close right there to the back fences, and so people just wander up. Some people have gates, they come in through the gates, they wanna know how to get out, so it's, you know, so there are problems there, so.
I had an email, sorry, I had emailed, I need to follow back up with her, I know she's super busy, Beth with MOC about, like, we'll pay for the sign, but like, can we just put a sign, it's technically their land, facing the trail saying, you know, if you come this way, you are not gonna be able to get out. I put signs on all the pedestrian gates because they recently asked me to change the passcodes
Yeah,
on those gates, so because so many people have a gate code. So they would get in there and it can be frustrating. You just walk how many miles on your trail and then you can't get out and you gotta walk all the way back around and go to Mesa Verde Park, where if there's a sign there that said, stop, you know, if you don't live in the code, please go around to save them some steps. So I'll reach back out to Beth and see if, I mean, it's very inexpensive to put a sign there.
Okay. Alright. Sorry, we can't change the declaration for you. Alright, anyone else have anything? Great, thank you all so much. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:50? Everyone, any opposed? It carries unanimously.
Howard jumped off about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dino and Joanne on the phone. Appreciate y'all being here. Have a great night. Oh, she.
yeah.